Hello, Frejid here with a Minecraft RedPower tutorial. Today we're going to look at the intro I've been using for most of my videos. I had a request for this and it's relatively simple, and it shows some basic circuit designs that you might find useful in other builds. Here you can see all of the circuitry behind the sign, but first we're going to go through it piece by piece and then we'll put it all together. Let's start with some basics about RedPower wiring. As you can see here, we have 6 lamps touching and a single red wire pointing at the side of one lamp. When the wire is powered, only the lamp it's pointing to will light up. Here though is a similar setup, only the red wire is attached to the side of a lamp. This will cause the lamp itself to act as a power source and light up the lamps adjacent to it, like so. Insulated wire, when pointing directly at the side of a lamp, will power only that lamp, similar to bare red wire. And insulated wire attached to the side of a lamp will not transmit any power. If you want to power the lamp in this situation, you have to detach the insulated wire and add a piece of bare red wire. Just as before, the red wire sends power through the lamp to light up the lamps next to it. Now let's take a look at how to make a lamp flicker before being completely powered on, the way a fluorescent light might do in the real world. Here we have just a timer connected to a lamp. When a timer receives power, it turns off, so this lever is currently powered, keeping the timer from spinning. Well, let's turn the lever off, which will allow the timer to spin. The timer is set to pulse every second, as you can see. This can be set as low as 0.2 seconds or as high as you want. For example, in my Let's Play world, I have a timer set to pulse every 70 minutes for harvesting wheat. Now let's see what happens when we hook up 2 timers to the same lamp. The left timer here is set to pulse every second, just like before, but the right timer is set to about half a second. This exact timing isn't important for the effect we're going to get. What's important is that the 2 timers are set to different times, fairly close together. You can play around with the timing to get slightly different results. When you have 2 timers with different spin times hooked to the same output wire, the effect is something that looks kind of like random blinking, like this. So now we know how to make the light flicker. But how do we get it to flicker for a while and then stay solid? Here we have the same 2 timers, set to different times. This one is set to 0.6 seconds, but I'll go ahead and set it to 0.55 to make it the same as the previous example. And this one is set to 1 second, just as before. Again, it doesn't really matter. This time, the input to the timers is a NOT gate. This is because in the right side of the circuit we want to know when the lever turns on. But the timers still need to be powered in order to stay off until we're ready for them. The right side of the circuit is simply a repeater set to a pretty long delay. This allows the flickering timers to operate for a short while, and then after the delay, the steady on signal from the lever is sent to this OR gate that is attached to the lamp. Let's see it in action. The OR gate simply takes power from either the left or the right circuit, so from the timers or from the repeater. Once the repeater is set to steadily on, the timers no longer matter. And one more time. Over here in the intro sign with my name, we have the exact same circuit used for most of the letters, but it has been compacted to take up less space. The functionality is identical to the circuit we just looked at. However, the settings on the timers and the repeater delay are slightly different for each letter in order to make the flickering pattern distinct for each letter. So now we know how to get the letters to flicker and then turn on. But how do we get the border lights to blink in sequence like this? Well, you might think the solution would be to use a sequencer. Here we have 4 lamps hooked up to a sequencer. You can set the time interval like with a timer. Each of the 4 outputs will be active for the time you specify. The problems with this solution are that there are only 4 outputs and there is no way to turn the sequencer off. In order to be able to turn off the lamps, you would have to use an AND gate between your on-off switch and each of the sequencer's outputs. Then attach a lamp to the output of each AND gate. If you need more than just 4 lamps in your sequence, as I do, there are 9 lamps total in my sequence over there. With sequencers, things quickly get complicated. You could do something like this. Connect multiple sequencers together with AND gates. Here is a sequencer in the middle, with 2 outputs going to the left circuit and 2 outputs going to the right. Each of these sub-circuits is made up of another sequencer, which outputs to these 4 AND gates. The AND gates also take input from the central sequencer, so that the entire sub-circuit is only powered half of the time. So when the orange outputs of the middle sequencer here are on, all of these AND gates receive a signal from it. And when the side sequencer sends its output, the AND gate will complete and send output to the lamp. The 2 sub-sequencers must be set at exactly half of the interval of the middle sequencer. We have this one set to 2 seconds, and each of the sub-circuits are set to 1 second. This is because the central circuit sends 2 of its outputs to each sub-circuit for a total of 4 seconds, which gives each sub-circuit exactly 1 second for each of its lamps. You still have to figure out a way to be able to turn it off, and would have to connect your on-off switch to the other side of each of the AND gates here in both sub-circuits. As you can imagine, if you want more than 8 lamps in your sequence, this gets even more complicated. Another solution to lighting the lamps in sequence involves monostable circuits. This is a very common RedPower circuit, and is simply a toggle latch and a timer. When the toggle latch is down, the wire below comes on, which will stop the timer. When the toggle latch receives an input, switching it to the up position, the timer is free to spin. When the timer gets to the end of its interval, it sends an output signal to the toggle latch, which switches the latch back down, which powers the timer, turning it off. We can also just click on the latch itself to switch it. So all we need to do is hook a bunch of these together and we get a nice sequence. Using this circuit, we can use as many lamps in the sequence as we want, and we can easily turn the sequence on and off with a single AND gate at the beginning of the sequence. So that's how it's set up over here. We have our 9 lamps, and when the sequence gets to the end, it simply sends its signal back to the first lamp through this gray wire, and so it keeps repeating. The green wire above comes from the on-off switch, and a single AND gate is used to turn the sequence on and off. You can see that each lamp has one of the 9 colored wires attached to it, and the colors are lined up in the same order that the monostable sequence fires. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope that you found it helpful. Please feel free to ask questions in the comments or via private message. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll see you next time.